A visit from the new sheriff of Maricopa County, Paul Penzone. He joins the show. Welcome to the Mike Broomhead Show.
Well, I got a message, I got a song. Can I get a witness? Tell me what's going on. I show the people I've been away.
You're going to get an opportunity to meet Paul Penzone, the new sheriff of Maricopa County, and his 100-day plan to make changes in that office. But we start all of our shows off with something we call the sweep. It's sponsored by our good friends at Zero Res Carpet and Tile Cleaning. Let's start off with what's going on with the cabinet positions in the Trump administration. Rex Tillerson approved as Secretary of State, and he was sworn in. At the swearing-in ceremony, this is what the president had to say about Mr. Tillerson.
This is where you were meant to be, right here today at this crossroads in history. It's time to bring a clear-eyed focus to foreign affairs, to take a fresh look at the world around us, and to seek new solutions grounded in very ancient truths.
So another cabinet position filled, but Jeff Sessions finally gets through committee and is going to get a full vote of the Senate for his job as Attorney General. Not without some fight back and forth. We know Al Franken and him being a little bit of an antagonist once in a while. This is what he had to say about Senator Sessions.
Before this committee votes to advance this nomination, it's important that we know whether Senator Sessions is able or willing to separate fact from fiction and speak truth to power. I am not confident that he is, and I will be voting against him, and I want to thank the chairman for his indulgence.
In spite of those comments, Senator Sessions was passed through committee. He will get a full vote of the Senate coming up, and I'm sure he'll get confirmation. Also, the Supreme Court nominee, Neil Gorsuch. Now, this judge is so well respected across both sides of the aisle. And when he was put on the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, he was unanimously approved. I don't know why they're going to try to be obstructionist on this. Nancy Pelosi, who doesn't even have a vote, said some things about it, said it was a hostile pick. Chuck Schumer promises that they're going to fight. But in the end, I think this judge will be put onto the court, and the Democrats will save their real battle for if a liberal justice like Ruth Bader Ginsburg were to retire, that may be coming down the road. Also in other news, the first real test of the foreign policy of this administration. National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, General Flynn, was talking about the Iranians. The Iranians have done some very inflammatory things in recent days, and this is what General Flynn had to say.
Instead of being thankful to the United States in these agreements, Iran is now feeling emboldened. As of today, we are officially putting Iran on notice. Thank you.
So the Iranians have done a couple of things in recent days. First, a ballistic missiles test, which is in clear violation of the UN resolution. They said it was for defense purposes, but we know what's going on there. Not to mention the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels shot at and damaged a Saudi frigate in the Red Sea. They thought it was an American vessel. That's why this move was taken. We'll see what the Americans are going to do. The first real test of this administration and their foreign policy. In local news, in the Valley, the Phoenix Police Department spoke out against something that the mayor of Phoenix had to say. After President Trump came out with the directives on immigration and the ban on travel, they came out, the Mayor Stanton came out and said, you're not going to turn the Phoenix Police Department into an immigration enforcement force. Well, the police department took issue with that. The Phoenix Police Department has an 11-page policy on dealing with people in the country illegally. One is you cannot racially profile. The other is they deal with them like everybody else. If there is an issue with their immigration status, they're turned over to ICE. So they put out a letter to Mayor Stanton saying, you're making our job a lot more difficult when you do things like this, because they've worked very hard to have an established relationship with the communities they patrol. As a matter of fact, a major city like the city of Phoenix and the Valley at large is a huge urban area. And for a size like this, they don't have the issues like major cities have with relationships with communities and the police department because of those established relationships. And Greg Stanton, the mayor of Phoenix, is running for governor. That's what that statement was all about. And what he did inadvertently was make it more difficult for the Phoenix Police Department, and he should apologize. We'll see if he does. Our interview coming up with Paul Penzone, the new Maricopa County Sheriff, happens here in just a few moments. You're going to want to stick around for that. But before we get to that, let me talk to you about my good friends at Zero Res Carpet and Tile Cleaning. The good people at Zero Res do a couple of things that nobody else has. First of all, it's empowered water. No soaps, no chemicals. And it cleans as effectively as soaps and chemicals without the harsh results. They are offering a great special during the month of February, $119, 3 rooms of carpet, Zero Resified in your home. Whether you call them or you go online, you've got to get in touch with Zero Res. They do a fantastic job each and every time. All right, joining me is the new sheriff of Maricopa County, Paul Penzone. When do we have to stop saying the new sheriff? You're the sheriff of Maricopa County.
I leave that to you guys to decide. I'm just happy to be the sheriff.
So the first 100 days, you came out with a 100-day plan. And first of all, how did you come to that plan? What does that plan look like now? How far into it do you feel you're on track to accomplish what you want to?
We are. You know, the first order of business was really bringing in and infusing some new talent to the organization, not new to law enforcement, and then identifying folks within the organization who are best suited to maybe take some leadership roles in partnership and weave that. And once we were able to establish that foundation, then it was about evaluating, and its different elements. It is, you know, the detention side versus the enforcement side. Are we truly established with a strong foundation? What are some critical issues affecting the community on the enforcement side? And then what are some elements of community outreach that we need to focus on? So it was a pretty quick process, but it was pretty obvious which issues were the deficiencies we wanted to focus on. So I'm pretty happy with where we are now. It's getting it done.
So let's start with the detention side. Of course, everybody wants to know Tent City.
Yeah.
And you've said before you're going to get an independent group of people. How is that process going? Have you made any decisions? Are you coming closer to a decision on Tent City? We
have the team together, and they're actually going to meet for the first time in the upcoming week or two. And when that team was selected, it was selected to ensure that there was representation from all different perspectives, and not politically, but although there is a lot of political balance in it, but it is business experts, it's attorneys, it's community outreach, it's people that have worked in the health industry, the mental health industry, so, and then even education. So we created this really well-balanced team, and they're going to get the first look. And what they'll do is they'll make a recommendation, and it might be keep it as it is, it might be make changes, it might be we don't believe that it best serves the needs of this community. And after they make that recommendation, then I'm going to meet with my executive team and say, here's what they've suggested. What is your perspective? And then I'll hold the responsibility for the ultimate decision. But that will occur before the first 100 days are up. Yeah, that's one of those things that Arizona's been known for. Maricopa County is that tent city, and people see it as a kind of a cost-saving measure. But that's not necessarily the case, is it? I mean, is it expensive for Tent City? It is. It's not necessarily the case, and a big part of it is because when it was conceived, it was due to the fact that we had more inmates than space and that there were some cost issues. Well, now our population for the last at least 5-6 years has been down to about 70% across all of our detention facilities. So we're actually keeping open more than we may need to at an expense to not only the taxpayers, but an expense to the safety for detention officers, because that's the hardest population for us to keep at capacity. We have a lot of turnover in detention. It's a difficult job. So in order to keep those men and women safe, we need to make sure we're consolidating and we have proper staffing. So all these factors will come into consideration before that decision's made. So going now to the enforcement side of things, you talked about community outreach. We talk extensively about, we're a major city and Maricopa County is huge, but we seem to have a great relationship between law enforcement and the community here that other major cities are having difficulties with, and a lot of that is community outreach. What are you doing now, and what are you hearing from the community when you reach out? Are there bridges that still need to be built, or is it just reinforcing relationships? No, I think there's a lot of bridges that need to be built, and that's a great way for you to describe it. We have faced challenges, and sometimes law enforcement's never pretty, and it can be a very difficult dynamic as far as keeping a positive relationship with certain elements of the community because of our enforcement actions. We know there have been challenges with the Latino community in the sheriff's office, and it was due to the tactics and the operations which were deemed to be, if not just bad practices, but even illegal, and it's broken down those bridges. So instead of waiting for this to rectify itself, we're being progressive. We're going out to the community, we're listening, and it's not just the Latino community, it's across the board. We're listening, we're learning, and then we're also educating and saying, hey, here's why we do what we do, and oftentimes you may not recognize why it's important or why our tactics are what they are, but we have to remain safe. So it's that balance of a relationship that it's only good if both sides are invested in each other, because no one person can carry that responsibility alone. So we're trying to be progressive, we're being humble, and we're listening, but at the same time we're saying, hey, we have a very serious job to do, and that's to keep a community safe. And in order to do that, we have to utilize force, we have to be disciplined, and we have to adhere and enforce the laws. Bottom line, that's our job, enforce the laws and keep this community safe.
So let's talk about the Latino community, but illegal immigration. I mean, there's two separate issues there.
Yes.
What is the stance now for the sheriff's office on illegal immigration, and how much does it differ now that you're the sheriff here? What part are you going to play in enforcement of those laws?
Well, when you say has it changed, it hasn't changed as it relates to the law and our responsibility. We as an organization are under 2 court orders, and the court orders are in place because of the bad practices by the previous administration, and there's no other way to describe that. And we have rules and guidelines we must adhere to. We must still enforce the law and be responsible in doing so. We must have partnerships with the other law enforcement agencies in this community. You know, we talk about all the other police departments. We have to be consistent so that every member of this community understands that we're going to apply that law, and we have a relationship with the federal agencies. As a matter of fact, I met with ICE today. So we are going to be constitutional, we're going to enforce the laws, and we're going to be responsible. If you have violated law in any capacity, if it falls under our venue, our purview, meaning state law, we'll act on it. If it's something that falls into the federal category, we're going to expect and demand that the federal agencies own that responsibility. So when it comes to immigration, those who come through the jails that are in violation of federal laws as it relates to immigration, ICE will make a determination. Out on the streets, though, I want to be very clear, we're not going to be doing roundups. We're not going to be focusing on targeting individuals because of the color of their skin. That's a violation of civil rights. And we will not be irresponsible. We'll prioritize. But we will be a law-abiding constitutional organization who upholds the law and is responsible in what we do.
All right, I want to shift when we get back from this break to what you're moving forward, what you see in this 100-day plan. I want to get back to that because reading through it, it's very comprehensive as I was reading through it. I want to let people hear some of the things you're going to be doing in the first 100 days. Sheriff Paul Penzone with us here from the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. We'll be back. Guest Sheriff Penzone from the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. Let me ask you a question. You made a comment, or at least I've read about this comment, where you've been accused of calling illegal immigrants or illegal aliens guests, and it kind of blew up on you. What was the context of what you said, and is that what you said?
Absolutely. I'll always own the words that come from my mouth, and it's, I will say it's a challenge. We do a lot of interviews. You try to be cautious in your words, but you want to be honest and forthright. And it was on the day that I was sworn in, and I probably done about 15 interviews that day, and one of the questions related to immigration. And I said, whether it's a guest, whether it's someone who's committed a crime, and I'm paraphrasing, but I'd gone through kind of a spectrum of the different people that we engage with in law enforcement. And the point of my statement was, we as an organization have to be professional. How we treat others is a reflection of who we are and what we stand for, and we have to enforce the laws fairly and be just in our actions. And when it was presented, that word in and of itself was framed out.
Okay.
And I own that because I chose that word, and it was framed out in a way as though I was referencing everyone as a guest. It doesn't matter what words I choose. I don't care who you are as a person. If you've broken a law, we have a responsibility to act on that. I am not going to scrutinize or use words to demean people. I am going to hold you accountable to your actions thereof. So a lot of folks were upset, and I can understand that they were upset. But that does not mean that I'm a person who takes a position saying that we should have open borders, because I don't feel that way. I feel that anyone who comes into our nation, we should know who you are and the intent of your visit here, that you should enter legally and be held accountable to any laws that you break once you come into the country, no different than citizens here. So a lot of people judge me on that one particular word, but that word does not reflect the manner of our actions as an agency. And I also want to point out, this is an organization that has cost the community over $150 million in lawsuits and legal fees due to the actions of my predecessor's leadership. We own that burden. I carry that burden right now. So we are going to be abiding by the court. We are going to be enforcing the laws, as I spoken earlier, aggressively in a just manner. And I will not go outside the scope of the constitutional laws in my job. I will abide by those things. So if folks are going to get upset with a particular word that I choose, they have the right to do so, because I have to be cautious in those words. But I'm going to ask you to be fair in looking at the actions of this office and not to judge me based off of a political affiliation, because I've always been a law enforcement man first, foremost, and only. And the pursuit of this office requires a political affiliation, but that does not mean that I am influenced by politics in how I do my job.
So how is your relationship with the deputies that have been there for a long time and the cops that are on the street? How is that relationship, and is it good to start with and improving? Where does it stand?
No, I think that to start with, there was a lot of nerves and caution, because I was somewhat an unknown commodity on how I was going to lead this organization. And for me to get to know the men and women, it's a learning process. But I got to tell you, Mike, I've been very blessed. They've been exceptionally welcoming, patient, been exceptional in the manner to get me up to speed, as well as some of the folks I brought in the organization. And I think it's going really well. I mean, we hear on a regular basis that the morale in the organization has improved dramatically, that they feel that leadership is listening before making decisions, and the decisions are meant not only in the best interest of serving the community, but these men and women who carry a great burden. It's a difficult job. And they want to know that those in leadership care about their safety, their well-being, and their career path and the opportunities that they'll have. So in the first 30 days, I couldn't have asked for more. I mean, I think it's going exceptionally well.
I don't think people understand the difficulty of your job, your agency's job, because you are in some of the most urban situations to some of the most lonely rural situations where deputies are miles from backup from each other. And that diversity has got to be tough on the agency and who you have where. How do you wrap your arms around that, and how is that a part of that 100-day plan?
The spectrum is vast. In the 100-day plan, one of the things that we spoke about is truly ensuring that the balance of staffing best serves safety, so that we're not doing things unnecessarily, we're taking those resources and allocating them properly. But here's how vast it is. You could be that deputy who works in a very rural area out on your own, taking a call with backup a half an hour away. And how dangerous and isolated is that? Or you could be the detention officer who is in a controlled environment with brick walls and steel doors where there are far more inmates than there are detention officers, and your safety is dependent on your relationship with those inmates. That in and of itself has its inherent dangers, and they're so far and different in scope. So these men and women that come to work every day that are judged oftentimes by their worst action and not their best day, they need to know this community cares about them, especially as we're trying to recover from a reputation hit that occurred for many years. Majority of this organization, great men and women who want to do the job the right way. For the percentage that aren't abiding by those rules or doing it the right way, we're going to hold them accountable and make decisions, because their actions should never reflect on those that are doing it the right way.
All right, last question. How does the sheriff's office look at the end of this 100-day plan?
Well, considerably different from the aspect that everyone in the organization will better understand my attitude towards being fundamentally sound, my attitude towards what it means to have lead with integrity and to be accountable, and that I'm not expecting you to be perfect, but I am expecting to come to work every day understanding who we serve and why we serve. One of the first things I told them, it's my job to manage this organization. You don't serve me. You serve the community who empowered you. So when they go to work every day, I want them to be disciplined and professional and ethical, but I also want for this community to appreciate what it is that they do every day to keep our families safe. So I think the difference will be just an attitude and a culture.
Well, I hope as you move forward that you'll come back and kind of give us an update on how things are going. And I do appreciate the time and how generous you've been with talking with us and the community about the changes you're making, because you stepped into a really tough spot in a bright spotlight.
If I could return this compliment to you, Mike, I appreciate when I come here how direct you are about important issues. To make sure that I am answering to them and that people understand who I am. You give me a chance to speak to an audience that sometimes may view me through a certain lens, but in your presence as a very conservative man, you hold me to a standard, and I appreciate that.
All right, Sheriff Paul Penzone, I really appreciate you coming by. We'll be back. Welcome back. It's time for one of my favorite parts of the show. We call it From Arizona for America. It's our way to congratulate and thank the fine Arizona men and women who have recently graduated from boot camp and are now serving in our country's military. So please join me in honoring Army Specialist Stephen Huff from Santa Rita High School in Tucson, Airman Garrett Foster from Apollo High School in Glendale, and U.S. Air Force Reserve Airman First Class Shelley Lynn Yaw from Raymond S. Kellis High School in Glendale. Now, for a list of more of our friends and neighbors that are from Arizona for America, you can go to the Mike Broomhead page at aztv.com. We'll be back in a minute. We have Broomhead's Best and hashtag this. Don't go away. Time for my favorite part of the show. We call it Broomhead's Best. The Waste Management Phoenix Open on Wednesday was the Pro-Am and a first responders appreciation. First of all, Jerry Rice, the GOAT, greatest of all time, was a huge hit. Dressed in all blue and dancing up a storm for the crowd, he came back to take the shot at glory. The Thunderbirds honoring first responders. 4 representatives from Valley First Responder agencies all got to take a shot at $1 million for a charity. They gave $25,000 to the 100 Club of Arizona. That is this week's Broomhead's Best. And for this week, we all have this one called hashtag this. In hashtag this week, Larry Fitzgerald makes it official. Hashtag Be Red, See Red. Fitz is coming back for the 2017 season. There's no way that Carson Palmer can leave with Larry Fitzgerald coming back, so it looks like they're getting the band back together for one more season. Let's see if they can't make that playoff push this year. Let's get that offensive line together. But man, is it great to see Larry Fitzgerald say he's back for one more season. That's hashtag this and Broomhead's Best. We'll be back in a minute to close out the show. Don't go away. Before we close out the show, I want to say a special thank you to the Thunderbirds for the money they raised and Phoenix Suns Charity for donating the Shot at Glory out at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. They donated $25,000 to the 100 Club of Arizona, and they honored the men and women who protect our communities each and every day. It's something we should always do. Out at the Waste Management Open, there are going to be over 600,000 people over the weekend. They'll be protected and made sure they're safe because of the men and women in those uniforms. So thank you to the Thunderbirds for the tournament and for honoring those great people. It really was an honor to be a part of that performance on Wednesday. We're going to be back next week with another show. Thank you for joining us this week. Catch us online on all of our social media programs. Have a great week, everyone. God bless.
Get more of Mike Broomhead on Facebook, Twitter, and of course weekday mornings from 6 to 10 on News Talk 550 KFYI.